Hey, sir, listeners, tell all, let's watch. Keep in mind that everything I say is completely speculative based on very little information. Let's watch.
You want it your way, and it has to be like now. And when it's not now, then sometimes you may throw like a little temper tantrum.
I'm going to throw a temper tantrum. She has never thrown a temper. I'll throw that temper tantrum. She is a Buddha who can hold her emotions together better than anyone I've ever met. I'm a normal person that will have a temper tantrum when one is justified, and one is justified right now. I mean, I would tear that room apart. Not that that's right, but if someone talked to me like that, I'd be like, temper tantrum? You want a temper tantrum? You want to see a temper tantrum? You've never seen it. Let me show you what a temper tantrum looks like. Anyway, so, yeah. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Yeah, it's talking down to her in multiple ways. There's so many layers to the abuse. And the other thing is, he always resorts to this tone, this calm tone. But I think what's happening underneath him is he is freaking out. He is highly distressed. It sounds odd, but every time that I've treated someone like him, just below the surface is just a vast sea of distress. And if you poke at him enough, it explodes. And they will convince themselves that they're the logical one, the one who's very calm, the one, and the other, everyone else is immature and stupid, and I'm the smart one, but it's just a defense.
Baby, it's like your way or the highway.
So what do you expect? And I did tell her, like, I know the last tell her, you felt like I didn't really stand up for you as your wife.
Yeah. Oh. So I suspected that they had a lot of conversations after the tell-all last time because people started calling him out. And she either didn't say anything or she kind of agreed because it's so apparent. And he shut down. During the post interviews, he was just, because I think he was freaking out on the inside. And I think there was a pretty rocky road after the last tell-all behind the scenes, would be my guess. And I've seen this in therapy. I'll see couples come in like this, very similar to this, and the Bilals of the world will think that everyone agrees that we're here to work on Shaeeda. That Bilal's like, well, I'll go to couple therapy, but really, Shaeeda's got the issue. And then I'll play along with that for a while because it's important not to alienate your clients. But, eventually I'm going to start sprinting around and the Bilals in my office will have a really hard time with that. And so I will hear eventually from the Shaeedas. They'll come into the office and they'll turn and just be like, I know you probably don't want me to say, I've heard this many times, the Shaeedas of the world will be like, okay, Bilal, I know you don't want me to tell the therapist this, but you frequently, after therapy meetings, are pretty upset at me and the therapist, but you don't seem to indicate that when you're here. So I think you need to be more honest with the therapist. And then the Bilals of the world, to see their eyes are just like, to be outed like that, because they're extremely compulsive and extremely careful about how they present themselves, extremely careful about how they're being seen. And they think that at least to me, they think that they're presenting a vision or a persona that I'm convinced by. I'm not convinced by it, by the way. And so when that happens, they think they're being exposed, but they were exposed the whole time. And there's nothing new. I'm not surprised when I hear this. So they can get pretty upset, and there can be abuse that can happen, but if that isn't happening, there's a lot of distress and a lot of scrambling. And I just, it's a phase in the development of that relationship and that client. It might be another few years for them to adjust to the idea of fully engaging in a conversation where they trust me enough to be able to expose themselves and their foibles and their vulnerabilities, and even expose to themselves that they have those vulnerabilities. Essentially what happened to people like that is that when they were young, they were denied the ability to have vulnerability. They were made to be vulnerable in some way. They were made to feel alone and hurt, abandoned, or something. And at the same time, they were given messages of, you don't matter, so shut up, or we don't even see you, you're invisible to us, or grow up, be a man, or whatever. stop being a baby. You know, there's this dual abuse, which is harm and neglect. And sometimes it can be pretty subtle, like you're just left alone a lot or something at home, latchkey kids, this kind of thing. And at the same time, when you have any kind of alert, like, hey, I don't feel good about this, you're additionally with the two-prong attack abuse of there's something wrong with you, or I don't even see you. We're not even here to hear you. I don't even know what you're saying. Anyway, moving on. And so you learn, like, okay, I have to control everything, because if I alert to other people, even to myself, I'm alerting my quote unquote weakness, which incurs the second prong to the abuse. So I'll do better if I just experience one prong of the abuse, which is the neglect or the harm. And I can avoid the second prong by controlling everything and never being vulnerable, even to myself. Everything's completely out of their awareness. They're freaking out all the time, but they have zero awareness about it because they've cut themselves off from themselves. And they're extremely ashamed, because they were made to feel ashamed of any vulnerability that they have, to the point where they deny it. They're just like, I'm not weak, you're weak, and it's like pretty obvious from the outside, especially to a trained therapist, that they have vulnerabilities. They're not weak, they're just human for having normal human vulnerabilities.
He is an amazing salesman. That is what we are all witnessing right now.
I feel like you, like a salesperson, you have to say back something, because you always have to win that conversation.
It's
If the comment is about your behavior, do you automatically say, well, but what about your behavior, as opposed to...
Yeah. So we're seeing a scene from the last tell-all, and this is the beginning of him being confronted pretty lightly, I would say. I mean, the amount of confrontation that he could incur from people, it was a lot less than that. In fact, Patrick was just saying, I look up to Bilal because I'm a salesperson and Bilal is a salesperson, and Bilal is even more adept at dominating or shaping the narrative. So it's kind of a compliment in a way. So Bilal gets confronted more and more as time goes on here. And so in the beginning, I think he's able to kind of manage it, but he slowly shuts down. And by the end of the tell-all, he was just standing there, I think, waiting for it to end, while Shaeeda cries next to him and is just like, I feel terrible about my decisions.
to
no,
just
not really.
concentrating
No.
on fixing the behavior that she's
no, not
talking
really.
about?
Yes, Sean.
Not really.
That's exactly it. Yes.
Okay. I don't necessarily expect for you to stand up for me, because I'm a grown man. What would have been nice though last time, and hopefully won't.
So you hear that? I don't need you to stand up for me because I'm a grown man. What? Like, everyone needs to stand up for each other, one. Two, he's about to say, but I want you to stand up for me. And this is the paradox of being in a relationship with someone like this. They will claim they have no vulnerabilities while they exhibit and ask for you to account for the vulnerabilities ad nauseum. They're like, no, I don't need you to stand up for me. I just need you to, just stand up for me. So watch this.
I don't necessarily expect for you to stand up for me, because I'm a grown man. What would have been nice though last time, and hopefully won't happen this time, is that it's not that stand up for me, don't.
So I've had so many clients like this. It's just incredible how similar they all are. I don't know if he's like this, but I've seen this behavior specifically. And the gears are turning in his head. It's like, no, I'm not vulnerable. I don't need you to stand up for me. No. I'm okay. I'm completely okay on my own. I have no vulnerabilities. I'm strong. I don't need you to stand up for me. Plus, I see you as a child, and children don't stand up for grown adults. I'm a grown man. You don't need to stand up for me. It's just that, but because they're in this mode of, well, I do want them to stand up for me. I do want loyalty. I don't want to feel like the way I felt last time. What they don't understand is they're creating the whole problem themselves. It's not coming from the outside. They're the one creating the foundation upon which this whole thing happens. So he wants something to change. He doesn't want it to go as it was last time. He wants to feel secure. He wants to feel not attacked. He wants to feel safe, as everyone does. But then she says, stand up for me. And then he's like, no. I don't need you to stand up for me because I'm a grown man. I got this. I just need you to, and then I'll rewind it. He starts to explain what he thinks is an opposition. I cannot tell you how many times I would hear this from a client. And it's frustrating because as a therapist, I trade in vulnerability, meaning that's how I make my living, is vulnerability, is to help people feel safe, to be vulnerable, to have corrective experiences around that, to be heard and understood and validated, validate each other in couple and family therapy, to be allowed to be that way, to do it in a safe way, a way that is held by other people and respected and loved. That's what I do. And to try to help someone be vulnerable and to lay it out just like a red carpet of like, all you got to do is walk with me. I'll tell you exactly where to go one step of the way. And to have them continually push back and say, no, I'm okay. I don't need anything. I'm fine. No, you're wrong. Kirk, you're wrong. I don't have, no, that's not what, all I'm saying is, and then I'll hear them repeat basically what I'm saying. Now, that's my problem. That's my problem that I have to bear. The frustration of that is real and normal, but it's not the client's fault. It's normal for them to have that issue based on their history. So I don't blame the clients. But it is frustrating. And because it can last literally for years. I'll hammer away at that very, very softly, very, very nicely from a number of angles for years. But the nice thing about being an experienced therapist that's been in practice for almost 3 decades is that I've seen it work over time. It's just chipping away at it. It's just rolling out that red carpet every single time. You roll it out. They burn it down. You roll it out. They burn it down. You rummage around in the closet. You find another red carpet. You roll it out. They burn it down. You knit your own red carpet. You work really hard and you create a red carpet. They burn it down. You just keep laying it out. And then all of a sudden, he's walking down the red carpet. Kind of. I mean, he burns the rest down. But, that was good. We got like 3 steps on the red carpet. And then, fast forward 10 years and they walk the whole way. To the point where I can, I've had clients where before I even ask them, they're laying it out. They made their own red carpet and they're walking it. They're creating red carpets for other people. You know what I mean? It's a really nice thing to see. But man, those first few years, So I don't know if that's what I'm seeing here, but it's no. I'm fine. I'm not vulnerable. That's wrong. I'm a grown man. You're the vulnerable one. You're the weak one. I'm the strong one. I'm okay. I just need you to, and then he starts to lay into it, but then he starts to calculate, wait, I think I am saying what she's saying. And then he quickly catches himself. No, he's like, no, I'm not vulnerable. I don't need you to take care of me. It's just that I need you to, it's not like sticking up for me, So you see that struggle.
Expect for you to like stand up for me because, I'm a grown man. What would have been nice though, last time, and hopefully won't happen this time, is that it's not to like stand up for me, like don't like attack me along with everybody else.
No. I don't need you to stand up for me. It's just that I just need you to, it's not stand up for me. It's just that, just don't attack me like everyone else. That's the same thing, Bilal. But it's not his fault. It's not his fault. He has not been to therapy, I don't think. It's another vulnerable thing to agree with someone. If someone says to you, wow, it sounds like you really need a hug. It sounds like you really need someone to listen to you. It sounds like you need a shoulder to cry on. Sounds like you want some help with that. You're picking up a box and it's heavy. Looks like you might need some help with that. For some people, given their traumas, it is almost impossible for them to admit that they would appreciate that. They'll be like, oh, well, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, if you want to help me carry the box, if I'll give you that favor by allowing you to help me carry. Or no, I'm fine. I don't need support. I'm good. I'm okay. Everything's fine. It's really hard for them to accept, not consciously. It's a subconscious thing. It's a pattern that they developed, a defense that they developed very early in life. But I think his need is so great that he can't help but to say something because he's about to head into the lion's den. I'm surprised he's on the show to begin with, honestly, because I would imagine most people in his shoes would say, why would I want to be on a reality TV show that's too vulnerable? But I don't know. Maybe there's some other reason.
Shalom. How do I greet you?
Assalamu alaikum.
Wait, assalamu alaikum. I'll see you later. No, sorry.
We're practice. We're practice on that.
All right.
Yeah,
I have a lot of respect for you, man.
Yeah, appreciate it.
As your biggest fan.
I'm your biggest fan.
Thank you.
Hi.
And good to see you.
You too. Looking great.
So apparently Ed is Bilal's biggest fan, which if I were Bilal, I wouldn't consider that to be the most wonderful of endorsements. And I've been talking about this before, that there's a connection between the way the two of them deal with things. The vulnerability foundation, I think, is very similar for the two of them, of abandonment worries and betrayal worries. And their defense is to talk down to their partner and control and try to act like I'm them. I mean, just think about all the parallels that the two of them think of their partners as immature. The two of them think of their partners as weak, as children, as frivolous. The two of them will talk down to, will talk superior, to, be paternal, will be narcissistic, will be not in the personality disorder sense, but in the behavioral sense, arrogant. Yeah. So, yeah, makes sense, actually, that Ed would potentially even look at Bilal and say, like, he's doing what I want to do in a better, more effective way, because Bilal hasn't lost his partner the way that Ed will. And I've seen that before. I've seen people with, they'll respect someone for things that are not healthy because they consciously see the unhealthy thing as being more healthy.
Thank you.
So Ed is
Ed called
100% on your side for everything that you've done. From bringing the truck to the van to the airport, to showing her the house. He loves it. I think it was a terrible idea.
What's up?
Yeah, yikes. So, yeah. I mean, maybe this is all just played up for the camera. So they seem to be dealing with the tell-all in a different way. And I think kind of to good effect. I mean, the last tell-all they had Tim and Kenny, right? And I thought that they seemed to be trying to make a almost like a reaction video during the shoot of the tell-all, right? That they would be reacting. And I found it to not be compelling content. But so they seem to be experimenting, trying to jazz it up a bit. And so with this one, they're having different individuals that, aren't in a relationship. Like they had Andre and Jovi meet up for a drink and talk, and they had a conflict that, I don't know, it just seemed like typical stuff. And Jenny and Kimberly had a conversation. So, it's interesting because I find that during the tell-alls, there's a lot more freedom for the cast members to talk about what's really happening. Because, in the show, it tends to play out kind of repetitively sometimes. In the tell-all, there's sort of a chaos that reveals other things, or they're asked other kinds of questions. Like the fact that Ed really respects Bilal, we wouldn't know that. We wouldn't have any chance to know this side of Ed, or how he sees these kinds of things. So I kind of appreciate that because it gives us perhaps more authentic data to go off of so that we can see how they're doing.
That note. Yes. Are you still together as a couple?
No.
No, period.
No, period.
Done and over.
Done and over.
Interesting. I think a lot of people would say good for Kimberly, because I think the tendency on the show is to string things along. And there's nothing wrong with that. When we break up sometimes, it takes a while for us to fully know that the relationship should be over, and there's nothing wrong with trying to make it work out. I didn't react to their breakup because, I don't know, there just wasn't much for me to say. It did look like Kimberly was suffering quite a bit. It's really hard to read Usman, though, because on one hand, I think a lot of people would say that he's just scamming her, and, one narrative would be, and I've seen this put forth by people, that he never intended on being with Lisa, he never intended on being with Kimberly, and is only doing this because he's trying to get his musical career off the ground, and it could be working. His strategy might be working, and he is still dating other women because he is open with Lisa and with Kimberly. He plans on marrying other women and having children with them. So he doesn't feel limited or something. He plans on making it work enough to be on the show, and then by the end of the season, coincidentally, the things end, or between the season end and the tell-all, coincidentally, there's always some problem that Usman will sometimes provoke a little bit, and particularly with Kimberly. I mean, there's some things that they were saying, Kimberly was saying that behind the scenes, he would be extremely insulting to her about her body, her weight, everything. And the way she was portraying it, it sounded really awful. Things that we don't see when he's in front of the camera. It's hard to know, but I tended to take Kimberly's account as at least somewhat credible, if not extremely credible. In fact, I think Kimberly has a lot of reasons to hide that stuff, because she might worry that she would look like a fool. So I think I tend to believe what she was saying about what he was saying behind the scenes. So was he just triggered and being a jerk face, but at the foundation of everything he wanted to be with Kimberly? Or was it some sort of calculation that he's like, well, I'll start to provoke her behind the scenes, she'll confront me on camera, I'll have a viable excuse to break up with her, and I'll come back on the show with a different woman in another year or two, and my career will continue to go up. Now, I don't know, maybe his career isn't going up and up, but I think that's usually the case for these folks, that it does improve their businesses. I don't know. Or Usman was legit in love with Lisa, legit in love with Kimberly, and they just had a lot of conflict. I don't know. With Lisa, you could imagine that there was a thing there where if he was trying to make it work, that he would eventually say like, this is just too much, it's too hurtful. With Kimberly, though, I mean, there were some issues there and some compatibility issues about like he wanted to have a kid. They were talking about adopting a kid, but Kimberly seemed at least kind of open, mostly open. So you could argue that maybe Usman was just like, well, she said she was open to me marrying someone else, but either I didn't explain it fully or she wasn't really open to it, and this isn't going to work, so we're done. Well, maybe, I don't know. It's just hard. What do you think? Do you think Usman, because it is an interesting, and I will often ask my wife about this, do you think Usman legit, because there's a reason to believe it's not possible, of course, but there's just so many pieces that pointing in another direction. Do you believe that Usman, at least in part, because you can want both, right? You can be in love with someone and legit want to be with them and see them as a meal ticket. There's nothing wrong with that. People will have those kinds of things. But we don't even know if Usman saw her as a meal ticket because he seemingly wanted to stay in Nigeria, didn't want a green card, seemingly, and is seemingly doing okay in Nigeria. So I guess the question is, was he just using her as a way to get on the show so he could clout? So was it that and no legitimate attraction and love for Kim, or possibly that and legitimate love and intention on wanting to spend the rest of his life with Kimberly? What do you think? All right, well, if you didn't know already, we have a website, of course, and we have an audio podcast that you can listen to on your phone. I'm pointing at my phone, not that you can see it, but you can listen to the audio podcast on your phone if you're interested in such a thing. And everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.